The other day, our cat was trying to get in the window, and he trashed our cheapy blind we had there. What's that have to do with an economic collapse? What the heck? Well, I'll get to that later. And before any of you start sending me comments or messages about, gee, you ought to get rid of the cat, remember we live in a country. They serve a useful purpose here. Before I get to the window blind, let's talk a little bit about current events. With the bailouts and the stock drops, it's been a little hairy lately. But keep this in mind. Whatever you do, don't panic. Think about it this way. When you got up this morning, the sun was still shining, the birds were still chirping. It's not as bad as you think. Look, I've been enough of a freak about this stuff for a long time that it's led me to study an awful lot of things. I'm kind of weird and I really like history. There's an old cliche that I tend to believe in. It says that history tends to repeat itself. Take the Great Depression of the 1930s, for example. The stock market crashed in October of '29, but it took years for unemployment to reach its peak. Even at its worst point, over 80% of Americans still had their job. Could it get worse this time? Sure, it could happen. But I think we're not going to wake up tomorrow to find that the entire economy's collapsed and gone over a cliff.
Oh my God, what happened to the brakes?
I think it's going to be more like we're sliding down a hill covered in mud. And no matter how hard we try, no matter how hard we dig at the mud... Sorry, wrong mud picture, hold on. That's better. Where was I? Oh yeah. Our lives are going to keep sliding down this hill, just one piece after another. And the government's going to grab at $700 billion tree branches trying to hold us up. But it won't hold us for long. How bad's it going to get? Heck, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. And you probably don't either, when it comes right down to it. I'm pretty sure we've got at least some slope to slide down. But then again, it could be much worse. Here's another cliche I like to use. The one that says that you should hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So here's the whole point of the video, and it doesn't have a lot to do with window blinds. The thing is, if you're going to plan for the worst, you're going to have to change the way you think. You got to get out of that rut and the funk that you've been in and get busy. You got to think about everything in your life, because some of it you might not have in the future. Look, if you think there's even the remotest possibility that you might wind up living like a caveman and digging for grubs in the dirt, don't you think it makes sense to start planning now? Preparing? In my family, we call this the 5-year plan. Do we have 5 years? Probably not. But the further we can get down that preparedness road, the less of an impact Mount Doom might have on us. And what if it's just Recession Hill? Hey, we might save some money in the process. So here's how I think we all need to change the way we think. We need to think about everything in our lives. Is it something that might be useful in the future? But wait a minute. If the power grid could possibly go down, will we have to do without it? Is there something in a thrift or an antique store that we could use for a reasonable replacement? Can you make your own soap, for example? If the stores go out of business and you can't get the little things in life, it might affect you in strange ways. You might have to think differently about the appearance of your significant other, for example. You can live with that. But the point is to start thinking about everything in your life in this way. So here I am with one of life's little minor inconveniences. And I'm trying to apply my new future thinking to it. So here's a thought. If there are problems with the power grid, my furnace might not be working. I don't particularly like the cold. If the grid goes down, then the pumps won't be working either, I might not have gas to run anything. I might have to burn wood to stay warm, which means I might have to use these instruments of torture and pain, let alone figuring out how to get my newly cut heat sticks from the woods to my house a couple of miles. That means that every ounce of heat I can keep in the house means less work for me. I can apply this. So here's another crazy train of thought. This is supposed to represent the view outside my living room window on a dark night. I tried to take an actual picture, but I don't have a camera good enough. Remember, this is for poor folk. That yellow dot in the middle, that's a house. We'll call it Randy's house, mostly because the guy that lives there is named Randy. My two nanny goats are going to go over there here pretty quick for some quality time with his billy goat. You know, for some... We'll just say it's a natural part of the process to turn grass into milk for me to drink. See, the thing is, though, this is a pretty good representation of what it looks like outside my window at night. You can see Randy's house. It's hard to believe, but Randy actually lives 2.5 miles from my place. If you live in the city, you probably wouldn't understand this. Well, maybe if you go camping a lot. But if the power grid goes down, you're going to learn it real quick. So you've done some good preparing. Maybe you got a solar panel or some wind power or some other way of generating electricity. And you got a couple of lights burning in your house. This is what it's going to look like. You might as well have a neon sign on your roof. So let's imagine there's a group of young, very hungry but very well-armed young men out there. They're skulking around with the intent of taking your stuff, killing your wife, and raping your dog. You need to keep these things in mind. Look, I'm not trying to get you to copy what I do. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I don't think I know for sure. If I could get a few people out there to start thinking differently, though, planting a garden, learning some new skills, how to can, for example. If I could get you to build a root cellar in the corner of your basement, start thinking about the things you use in your life. If I could get a few people to start making lists, not panic, but start to realize there are things you can do about this situation. If I could get everybody to start doing some things like this. If I could get some people to decide in their own mind how bad they think things are going to get, and start planning accordingly. You know, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. If I could get some of you to start thinking things through with a different eye towards the future, and then using your imagination to come up with solutions that you think will work the best. This is what I do when I can't sleep at night. I put a lot of time into making these videos. If I could get just a few of you out there to turn into lunatics like me, I could feel like maybe I helped somebody.